Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, everybody. Good energy. Okay, so my name is Paolo Tripodi, and I'm taking a break, and so far no regret, from watching the World Cup. And I'm telling you, last night I had to go to bed at 10 because we get up in the morning, and I went to bed that Egypt was losing with New Zealand, and I thought this morning, how bad that go? And they won. The beautiful thing about soccer, and I thought, was he worth it? Because, you know, I got to be here. Scott Erdelatz got me in trouble. The good news is that there are no games until 1 o'clock this morning. Okay. Who am I? I am Paolo Tripodi. I work at the Lejeune Leadership Institute. I was blessed with having, at some point, Scott Erdelatz as my boss. And I've been there for a certain number of years. I am from the south of Italy. I'm Italian-American generation zero. My son is generation one. My language is what it is. My wife, who is from Oxford, that is a little place in Ohio, tries to improve my ability to speak English, and at some point she acknowledged failure. So it is what it is. If you don't understand something, please just stop me, and I'm going to be more than happy to talk about this. How beautiful to be with you this morning, because I expected to have a phenomenal crowd. Not only there is a phenomenal crowd, but there are a few friends, which is even an added bonus. Love you guys. Normally see you walking around and enjoy that. Conodescence, how fantastic to see you back. So how can anyone teach ethical leadership to leaders like this? So it's a humbling experience. Fantastic. Anyway, I'm going to try to do my best to entertain. So this is going to be, I hope, an engaging conversation. And we're going to use two instruments, one from the future, and the normal crowd of 20-year-olds loves it. So we're going to use the phone. I know, it's an evil tool. This is evil. But for today, we're going to use it. And then we're going to use a tool from the past that often people says, I got the phone, I don't got that, a pen. So that's what we're going to use today. Both things. And I'm going to tell you when we're going to use it. So what are we going to do today? We're going to talk about ethical leadership, and we're going to engage in a conversation on ethical leadership, and we're going to agree or disagree, and then if we get passionate, we're going to have to agree to disagree. And it's possible that that is going to happen. So, okay. The number one thing, particularly when we get to our age, and our age is supposed to, looking at all of you, is more or less, the average year is what, 35? 30? Come on, let me feel good about myself. Okay. But at the level of maturity that we have, one of the problems we do, I think, we do little self-reflection. So what I encourage us to reflect on is, how much time do I put in considering my style of leadership? And when I think about leadership, I don't want you to think in terms of positional leadership. I've been in positional leadership in a number of different places. My greatest challenge as a leader, and the challenge that I think I'm never going to be win, is leading my son. And the older he got, particularly past the age of 12, the more challenging it has become. I've been a platoon commander. That has been the most senior position I had with the Italian Carabinieri. Do not call it carbonara, because otherwise I'm going to get really upset. I had this conversation with some Marines that they called me the carbonara officer, and then I called them the marinara officer, and then the game ended up, the joke ended up there. So, and in uniform, the challenge is huge, but at some point you say, okay, straight up, on attention, boom. I tried that with my son, doesn't work. So, and then I want to emphasize the importance of engaging in some activities, and in particular, engaging in mentoring. Mentor as much as you can, and be mentor as much as you can. I still look for mentors, and I've been so lucky to find many. I don't think there is an end for the transformation. We continue to transform and try to become better at what we do and at who we are, particularly if we continue to look for mentors. I look at the guardian angel, for example. To me, the guardian angel is an extremely important concept. I got several guardian angel the most important guardian angel in my life is my wife. Is the mirror that I use before I get out of the house. Is the mirror that I use when I get back home. Is the one that I talk to when I'm in trouble. And then I have a few friends. Scott is one, Francis is becoming another one, and they are becoming from mentor to guardian angel. What is the guardian angel doing? Keeping us out of trouble. So being extremely humble in that relationship is so important. The other thing that I would highly recommend is a strong commitment to self-education. And self-education, I would take the General Mattis approach. Read, 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 read. And when you're tired, continue to read. And what is the reason why he suggests to read so much? Because at some point in history, we're going to find ourselves in a position where someone else had been in the past. And guess what? When we need to make critical decisions, we already have been there through the eyes of someone else. David, sorry. I love you, brother. So, okay. Then be a source of inspiration. And the greatest challenge is not be a source of inspiration of those who look at us as a point of reference. The greatest challenge, from my point of view, is a source of inspiration among our peers. Our community, that normally has a tendency to be either positive, but sometimes negative, is the one hardest to convince that we can be that point of reference. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is a short exercise in terms of to start the self-reflection process. I'm going to give you this. Here we go. Thank you. And I'm going to ask you to take a few minutes to provide a self-evaluation. Make an assessment of where you stand on these 8 elements. Give yourself a grade between 1 and 5. So imagine, here we go. Imagine that you believe that you have a personal mission statement and you live by that and you're really doing a good job, give yourself a 5. If you think you're not really that great, give yourself a 1. And then by the end, do me a favor, add everything and see what is the total. Do you all have 1? And that's where we're going to have to use the pen, the tool from the past. Oh, hey, I haven't seen you. How's it going? Hey. Good, good. See, it's getting even better. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Do you need 1? Okay, can I ask you, tell me, have you added everything? Have you given yourself that final number? Should be anything between 8 and 40, right? My math is not that great. Do we have any 40? Do we have any 8? That's beautiful. Okay. Obviously, going through this will take us a little while. I just want to touch on a few. Can you tell me which one was the one that you thought it would be the most challenging? And you gave yourself either a 2 or a 3. Go ahead. 7. Those that influence and lead, feel cared for, and clear the direction they're going. How much do you give yourself? And I know, whatever you give yourself, I give you a bonus, like the teacher does with my son, 20% increase. Because I love you, man. Go ahead.
Difficult to answer because you're talking about other people's feelings.
Okay. Do we have a way to validate ourselves in that? How someone else responded, evaluate himself or herself in this one?
Go ahead, please. We do end-of-course surveys for both faculty and students.
Good. Can we do a little bit more than that? Go ahead.
I would say how stakeholders engage one-on-one with you, whether they feel confident and psychologically safe to come and make those comments or engage in that conversation.
It's what indication we want to use. I don't have an indication. I have a formal indication. I have an informal indication. Which one community or wise individual? Which one you consider to be the most powerful? It's the informal. You've been all in a command, and if you come across the one that influences and lead you in a way that inspires you, you meet that individual coming towards you in the corridor, what do? Speed up, how's it going, how you doing? What about if you're not inspired, or in fact, if it's the opposite? The first opportunity to get into an office, then did he pass? So do we have ways? I agree. It's a challenge. But do we have ways to understand whether what we're doing has I'm going to use a business term which is totally wrong, a return on what we do? And I believe yes. The formal way, I think, is validating that. Do we agree? If that becomes the only way to say, okay, I can tell you that I am effective at influencing and leading people because I got the best possible evaluation, is that enough? I don't think so. Another one. Go ahead. Yeah.
For me, it's number 6.
Number 6. Oh, yeah. So how did you do with that? How much?
I got up 2. Because, again, I mean, like you mentioned, it's hard to measure something that's extrinsic, right? That, you know, it's based on others' perception.
Wayne, do we have ways to validate that? And in this case, do we need ways to validate our legacy? Are we doing the right thing? I think from my point of view here, there is a component, there is a lot about the interaction that we have every day with other people, whether we are mentors or mentees, whether they're just friends or people we met on the street. Okay, we have that. This, I think, is more something about who we are. And my question is, am I doing everything I can to make sure that that legacy is there? And clearly, 20 years ago, my approach was different. Now, I'm about to turn 61, and I'm beginning to think, how about that legacy? I'm a 2 myself. How do I get better? And I'm working to try to get better, and I want to be negative to continue to improve. Anybody else that wants to make a comment on that? Are you happy with the legacy you're going to leave?
I'll be honest, sir, when I looked at that question, my focus group got a lot tighter. So I answered that question, looking at my peers, looking at those that I taught, but I really focused on family with that.
Yes.
My number was a little bit higher with the 4, because I focused on a very tight group around me.
That's beautiful. Okay. The way I see it, and please just tell me you disagree. The way I see it in terms of circles, okay? And there are small circles that become bigger circles. The number 1 circle to me is my family. And what I like to believe is that I create a wave type of situation. I don't know if you throw a stone in the sea and on a calm sea, which I'm going to be there in 2 weeks. So you just throw the stone and you see that circles. And so is that approach an approach that consciously makes you think about the legacy you're going to leave for your family? Does it unconsciously makes you give a good legacy for the other circles? And I would argue yes. I would say, okay, the fact that I focus on my family doesn't mean that I'm entirely selfish, but I understand what is my priority. And in the way I treat my wife and son, do I treat everybody else? And I think I do. And the reason I treat everybody else in similar ways is because of the way I treat my son and wife. It's not that at home I take care of my legacy and go outside and I don't give a crap. Okay, so this is going to give us a bit of a headache at some point. The one thing that I would like to do if this come back, and it will. Okay, what about the first one? To me, the first one is one that really gives me a bit of a headache. Do you have a personal mission? Have you ever thought, why am I here? What do I do? What is my purpose? Please, go ahead.
I think I had the same issue with number one. I think one mission statement with one objective is too narrow for someone who wears as many hats as a lot of us do, as a grandfather, as a father, as a husband, as a Catholic, as a regional chief instructor, as a citizen. I think it's too narrow to have just one statement because it won't capture all of the objectives.
That has been my challenge for a long time. Anybody else that is sympathetic to that challenge? We have so many roles. Now, the way that I looked at this is, can I find a minimum common denominator? And after doing this for many years and reflecting, and I reflect particularly after this conversation because you all touch me. The things you tell me make me start the process of self-reflection. I start seeing things from your perspective. And I think the search for a minimum common denominator has brought me to believe that we can actually have a mission, and the mission could be, for example, in my case, I decided my mission is to make sure that I make others happy. And I can do that in different capacities. I can do that as a father, I can do that as the ethics branch head, I can do that as my father's son, I can do that as a citizen. And by happy, I don't mean I go around and I invite people to go for a drink. I treat them with respect. What is the golden rule type of thing? And I actively try to do that. My question became, and it continues to be, have I done something good today, regardless in whatever capacity, to make this little world a little better? All things that come from being a Boy Scout for a significant amount of time. But that was my challenge. How do I find that mission? And then I found this minimum common denominator. We can continue to talk about this for hours, but these two gentlemen is going to look at me, and then the director is going to fire all of us. So please do me a favor. Form groups, no more than 5. You can do one group here, one group there, one group here, and a group here, and work on a definition of leadership and ethical leadership for 5 minutes. I know it's, if you can all get together, this component, if at some point from Conrad Desen ahead, you work as a group, from Conrad Desen behind, work as a different group, and then a group here, so we're going to have 4 definitions. 5 minutes, and then when you're ready, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. I'm going to ask you, and so I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to ask you to work on Mentimeter. So, I'll explain to you when you're ready. Ready? 5 minutes, beginning now. And you have 100 characters, so the definition has to be really wide. And then we go to the side. Okay. Okay, 4. All right. Let's look at these definitions. Francis, if you need me to use the microphone, just say. Okay. Please identify yourself. Who is this group mob's boss? Oh, come on, guys. It's you. I knew it. All right. Let's see if we agree. Let's see if we agree on a definition. Are you still working to put it in? Yes. Okay. We can start the conversation, then wait for you when you join us. Okay. Leadership is influencing others to achieve a goal, while ethical leadership is doing so with integrity, fairness, accountability, and moral responsibility. Is their definition. I don't like them, but I think it's a good definition. What do you think? Well, but you're there, man, so how can I like you all? So leadership is the art of influencing others towards a shared or common goal. Okay, is that definition a definition that is good for ethical leadership? It's good for leadership, right? Do we agree with that? Ethical leadership, influencing others through action consistent with moral principle and standards. Perfect. Leadership is organizing and inspiring a group to accomplish goals. Ethical leadership is organizing and inspiring a group to accomplish goals aligned with legal, ethical, and moral standards. The time is against us, so we got to move on. But I want us to think a little bit about these definitions. Where do you stand in terms of where you feel comfortable? Reflect for a few seconds. What does it mean to do things following ethical standards? What does it mean to be a good leader that applies values? What is the implication?
Depends on what the values are.
Okay, let's see if we can also find another minimum common denominator. Can we agree on American values? We can disagree. The beautiful about this is that we can agree to disagree. But if we have a minimum common denominator, can we agree on American values? Okay, so that answers. Leadership. Son, go get a good grade. Ethical leadership. Son, go get a good grade. I don't want you to cheat under any circumstance. Do we agree? My son sometimes comes home crying. I got a bad grade. You should have studied more. I did my best, Dad. But everybody else cheated. I don't think everybody else did. Some did. So what is the implication of leadership and ethical leadership? What happens when we apply values? Do we compromise the mission? Sometimes. My son compromises mission. He's not going to get an A. He's not going to get a B. He's happy if he gets a C because otherwise I'm going to chew his brain. But are we happy? No, happy is the wrong word. Are we ready to accept failure?
But is it failure if that's what you can achieve?
Can you elaborate a little bit more?
No, I'm just saying, if he is not an A student, but he's a C student, you want him to have to get an A, but he can't get an A. He is unable to, his limit is a C. So from his perspective, I'm successful. A C is the best I can do.
That's an excellent point. What about if it's someone working with you and it's someone that you know he can get an A? What happens when shows up and tells you, I got a C?
But that's different. If you know that person is capable of getting an A,
yes,
you will crush him because he didn't get an A. But you have people that you work with that know he is always going to be a C. He is not any smarter than a C, and I'm happy that he's able to do C work.
Yes, I think on that one, we're going to have to agree entirely. The issue that I have is that sometimes we have people who can get an A, and they ended up, to the best of their ability, that day, we can all have a bad day, getting a C. That's failure. And yes, I said that I'm going to chew his brain, but we all know better. Can failure be a learning moment? Absolutely. So when my son fails, and I'm going to be very honest, in an intelligent way. An intelligent way means is non-catastrophic. It's always a good moment to use as a learning moment. So that's the way I look at failure. Let me just give you an example of what I consider to be effective leadership. Of course. For those of us who love The Sopranos, also understand that he's really an effective leader, isn't he? Is he ethical? No, of course not. Although you will be surprised. And that's another thing that we cannot explore today, the difference between objective and subjective ethics. There is an old book, I Kill, Therefore I Exist, written by philosophers about Tony Soprano and his ethics. Our initial thing was, he doesn't have any. How many of us see the world in a different way and think that our ethics is screwed up? And we need to remind them, well, maybe American values is something we can all agree or disagree. Go ahead, quickly.
Well, there's a difference between ethics and morality. right?
Sure.
Ethics is the societal norms. It's accepted by societal norms. So in Tony Soprano's society,
Yes, correct. You are absolutely right. That's it. He probably doesn't have the Ten Commandments as a base for his ethical operation. Okay. This is what I reflect on, and I'm really sorry I left this E at the end, because I used this slide in Italy. That's it. And immediately, Scott Erdelatz said, no, it looks all good, but that E. And I told him, he said, did you use it in Italy? I did. Okay. Now, I want to say a few things about this. This is academic, scholarly research that has been done. There are three types of leaders. There is the ethical leader, there is the ethically neutral leader, and then there is the unethical leader. While the ethical leader is always promoting ethical behavior, and therefore the organization she is leading is probably going to be very professional and very ethical, the other two leaders, whether they're neutral or unethical, they are negative. Even the neutral leader, those of us who are not actively committed to promote ethical values and ethical behavior, okay, are going to find themselves at some point with an organization that is going to act less than professionally. The time frame for unethical leaders to create an organization that has an ethical and unprofessional behavior is very short. For ethically neutral leaders, it's a little longer, but it's going to end up there. The message from academic research is we got to be ethical leaders. We're going to have to be ethical leaders in an extremely active way. I'm out of time? Nearly. Okay. Can you answer this question using Mentimeter? So get on the thing. Who suggested yes? Okay. So is it possible to be an ethical leader and not an ethical person? All right. I can see that many more of you are coming online. You can continue to vote on this. Okay. I want to have a little bit of a conversation. Someone who said yes. Oh, come on. Is it really you, man?
It's me, Doc, it's me.
That's it. I'm out of here. Scott, I can't finish this. Come on, go ahead. Go ahead.
You're finally leader that says, do as I say, not as I do.
Yes.
Leadership.
No, you know why he needs it? Because they are recording the whole thing. So that's the reason why the microphone is necessary.
I think the leader that says, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
Could be impossible of a leader that's ethical leader, but not ethical person.
So you think it's possible? Yes. Do you like the idea?
I know.
No. Okay, you don't like the idea. No, I do not like that. Okay, so would this be something acceptable? Probably not.
It could be, you don't know.
Say again?
You could because you don't know.
You don't know.
After leading, don't know that you're not an ethical person. You can tell them that, but they don't know.
Someone from the no, and then we go back to the yes. Someone from the no. Go ahead, Corin, please.
I have a hard time believing it because I think that you do as I say, not as I do. Using the do as I say, not as I do example, I think people can see through the rocks and that the organization is not going to be led and achieve those common goals.
On the base of this, I want us to reflect on something. Can we trust this individual? Because the issue here is not that we don't know. We know. Can we trust this individual?
Yes.
Okay. Can I hear the no and the yes? Who said no here? Why not?
Again, he's putting, he or she's putting on the front that leaders and that, he's putting on the front that see will see.
Right.
And everything is built on trust, so that base is not there. I just don't think it would work.
Can we find motivation? Please. Sorry about the microphone. We got to do that. That's why Francis is going to shout at me. Yeah.
I think as an ethical leader, you know, all of us in here in the Marine Corps, we lead others.
Right.
As in a group, according to a set of values or morals or ethics that are all common to the Marine Corps. Whereas, as an individual person, we're not leading anyone but ourselves, and we could be a flawed person and lacking some morals or ethics to ourselves.
Right.
But we would never do that to the group or to the mission.
Let me ask you something. What is the Marine Corps thing? Semper Fidelis, right?
Always faithful,
Always faithful.
courage, commitment.
A few years ago, maybe more than a few years ago, I always say a few years ago, but getting a little old. The director of the NCO Academy was a fantastic sergeant major. I don't know if it was during your time. Probably, I hope not. I hope not. I'm not going to reveal that then. And you don't know the conversation we had. But we had a long conversation on Semper Fidelis. Because I come from the Italian Carabinieri, and we have something similar. It's not Semper Fidelis, it's loyal through the centuries, which is more or less the equivalent. And so the discussion between me and the sergeant major was about loyalty. Can I be loyal to the mission, but not loyal to my family? Can I be loyal to the Marines, but not loyal to my wife? Can I be loyal to the Constitution, but not loyal to the cashier that is giving me a little bit more money and I don't give it back? So anyway, the sergeant major and I had a long conversation about loyalty. And to me, the Semper Fidelis is loyalty to everybody and everything. The risk of saying that we can be ethical in one department and unethical in another department is extremely complex. So we had this conversation, and the sergeant major and I completely agree. But at some point, he told me exactly the following. Dr. T, he lost it. Dr. T, I've never want to do it. I love my wife. I'm never going to do anything that is going to hurt my wife, doing whatever you think you can imagine. But if Carrie Underwood wants to sleep with me, she will. This guy's a fantastic guy. Can we trust him? And more important, can he trust himself?
As long as he's not around Carrie Underwood.
Say again?
As long as he's not around Carrie Underwood.
Okay, right. That opened an whole discussion. Okay. Once we have understood our own Carrie Underwood, are we active at keeping that temptation away from us? Because one thing is to believe I'm such a person of character that I would never do anything wrong. To me, it's so dangerous. I'm a person of character who understands that if I do this, I'm stepping on a minefield. Should I do that? A lot of wisdom. Final comment. Come on.
I just wanted to say that that's one of the problems you have with discussing this because it's such self-reflective.
Yes.
Such a self-reflection.
Yes.
Piece. And often people that are most ethical will be the ones that are first to say, hey, I'm not perfect.
Right.
And, you know, so to say always faithful, well, all of us fall short of that. So if it's, hey, if I fall short of that once, now I can't be trusted. Well, I don't think that's what we're saying. So it's a difficult conversation.
It is. But going back to what Colonel Dessen says, if I know that there is an area that is my Carrie Underwood, and I get into that area thinking, I'm going to be okay because I'm a person of character. Once I make that mistake, is that recoverable?
I think so.
I think, to use a case, and then we got to move on, but did General Petraeus recover from that? Can we trust that leader? And again, it's for self-reflection, this. My suggestion is be aware of our Carrie Underwood and remove it. Simple thing. I got high cholesterol. You're all young, you probably don't have that problem. And I know that chocolate kicks my rear end. Should I keep chocolate in the fridge or not? My suggestion is what my wife says. do not bring chocolate home. Would I eat it? Absolutely. I'm a person of character, 100%. Particularly if she starts eating it, or my son. Okay, very quickly. Is it possible, see, this is taking a little bit of a different turn. So use your phone and tell me what you think. Is it possible to be an ethical leader and never to be even a little unethical? I know there is just 5. Can you enlighten us on why sometimes? What will be those times? Which is very similar to strictly under some circumstances. So let's combine those two. Tell us under what circumstances you think is acceptable to be a little unethical, if you can think of. Go ahead, please.
Sometimes in the morally gray areas, you don't realize what the proper ethical thing is until later, after you've had time to think.
Okay. But there is a case of being ethically blind, which is something that we know is a possibility, regretfully. We fail to see the ethical dimension, and we realize the ethical dimension later on. Knowing what we know later, would we have done the same thing? If the answer is yes, then we are unethical. If the answer is no, then we've been caught by one of the things that happened, and there's a moment of ethical blindness that we didn't see the ethical dimension. But what about anyone that would say, if we got to do this unethical? Francis, we're gonna transition in a second. Yeah, I give you an example. I do some of this with the staff NCO community, and we love it. We have a really good time. And when we need to put things in context, I ask them, has it ever happened to you to make a, I don't want to say false, but to cheat a little bit on a training report? And what I normally see among the staff NCOs, it's a big smile. Is that acceptable? What constitutes the same thing, the acceptable unethical behavior that you would say, okay, I'm ready to condone it? Something for you to think about. Can it become bigger? Can it go from, well, sometime, and then all the time? Can be accepting something that we consider to be exceptional, and then becomes normal? Is that a safe terrain to explore? Okay, very quickly, I want to talk to you just about the 2 styles of leadership, transformational and transactional, and I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Let's read this. Can we start from here on the right side, on the transformational? Can you read the first line of the transformational?
Transformational?
Yeah.
Leadership is proactive.
Can I have someone from there reading the first line of transactional?
Works to improve the organization overall.
Achieve the objectives through higher ideals and moral values.
Okay. And it works to improve the organization overall. Okay, over there, please, transformational. Transactional, sorry. Yeah.
Achieves objectives through rewards and punishments.
Perfect, thank you. Someone here or here for transformational? Motivates followers by encouraging them to put team interest first? Someone over there?
Motivates followers by appealing to their own self-interest.
Thank you. Someone from here, each behavior is directed to each individual to express consideration and support? Over there? Come on.
Maintain the status quo, stress correct actions to improve performance.
And then from here, someone else? Please, go ahead.
Long-term vision of the organization and its individual members.
Thank you. Over there?
Managerial.
Short-term vision, what is relevant is now. And here, what will be? Inspirational, right? Which one we like better? We like it better, right? All right, let me ask you to engage on this. Three more and then we break. Three more and then we break. Can you tell me why transactional? Go ahead, please.
So I'm going to be a little contrarian here and say, I think you cannot have the majority be transformational. The organization has to stabilize around transformation, and that requires transactional leadership for a time.
So the idea is that the job needs to be done and transaction. Wouldn't the job be done anyway if we're transformational? Huh? Yes, right? Why do we think that if it's transactional, it get done, and if it's transformational, it doesn't?
That's the kind of pieces that you're dealing with. So some folks are only interested in self. So how do you influence a person to become more than self-interested?
Man, how do you do that? How do we do that?
Be a leader.
Be a leader. Okay, there is another way. Punishment and rewards? Yeah. Is that good leadership? It is. I don't want to say, but I'm going to let you say. He says no. That's not good leadership. Go ahead.
Sustaining the transformation.
Yes. Oh my God, for years I've been looking for that. It's sustaining the transformation, not the transaction, right?
Yes, that's Mike's try, by the way. Just so you know.
Okay, listen. Two more. And the next one, I'm going to try to get you in trouble.
Everybody else.
Of course. They are transactional, but I'm transformational. They are transactional, but I'm transformational. Let me tell you something. I want to share this with you. You are the first group I'm going to share this with. I've done this for years. And it's always, in fact, in the first iteration, when I asked, is the Marine Corps transactional transformation, you surprised me how positive you were, despite being negative. Normally, it's exactly like this the other way around. It's exactly the other way around. 2 weeks ago, I had a bunch of lieutenants, 50 lieutenants, out of TBS. It was surprising to me that they were transformational and transformational, heavily. I told them, guys, you're making me go home today happy. And then I told them that when I do this with a mature crowd, we have a tendency to be a little bit inconsistent, let's put it that way, right? Would that be? And one of the lieutenants, and I'm sure it was a prior enlisted Marine, said, well, this group of lieutenants do not know yet. That's what he said. And I didn't say anything. We had a really good conversation, and we continued the chat. Their captain is a fantastic captain. And that's probably the leadership they've been seeing for 6 months, and possibly the first leadership they've seen. How powerful is that? Okay, let me just move on and then we stop. Where is Francis? Right. Okay, I'm not going to ask you to answer this. I'm just going to tell you that in addition to transformational leadership, there is servant leadership. And servant leadership is something advocated by this guy. In his first message, he clearly said, so if you imagine this is transactional leadership, this is transformational leadership, this is servant leadership. We exist for the others. Forget about making them happy, right? It's an existence as a leader to serve the other. Okay, take 5 minutes break. 5 minutes break, thank you. All right, so what are we going to do for the next part of this conversation we're having, I'm going to ask you to make decisions on something and then some specific. And then we're going to look at a case study and reflect on it. Okay. So, I want you to tell me what you think in relation to this. A colleague disregards explicit guidance from higher headquarters because they personally believe it is wrong or unworkable. Do you think, 4 options, do you think it's unethical, unprofessional, unethical and unprofessional, or you don't care, none of my business? What I want us to do is have a conversation and see if in the interaction and exchange of ideas and opinion, we can find a minimum common denominator. To me, finding agreement on everything is not the intent. It's finding where we disagree, why we disagree, and where we can find that minimum common denominator. Okay. Can anyone explain why is unprofessional but not unethical?
Go ahead. I think it's a two-part test to go from unprofessional, which is what I voted, to unethical, which is if the order was legal, you need to follow it. And if it was somehow morally unacceptable, then you have an obligation to challenge it, not just not follow it.
So you don't see a ethical dimension in disregarding explicit guidance from high headquarters?
If it's legal?
It's of course, is explicit guidance from high headquarters. Legal.
Follows my norms. If it's outside of my personal norms, then it's my obligation to challenge it or in some other professional way, not just ignore it and not follow it.
Perfect. So the issue will be if it's legal and disagree or dissent, just say, it doesn't work for me. Okay. Good point. Go ahead, please.
I voted unprofessional as well because it could be wrong. It could be the wrong approach or an infeasible approach or unworkable approach and not be ethically wrong. So you could take that stance and it wouldn't necessarily be an ethical dilemma.
Good. Someone out of the 8. Why is unethical and unprofessional from your point of view?
I think it's unprofessional because the word personally is used. I think the hang-up for some may be that it's guidance versus direction. Where I think direction is more sustained with a regulation or a standard, whereas guidance is more, mission type statement.
Yeah. So unethical and unprofessional.
Correct.
We need to agree to disagree. On that I agree. To me, it's unethical and unprofessional. Are you familiar with an Army study that was released in 2015? Is lying to ourselves. It was a study that was conducted by 2 colonels and PhDs, I think both of them. One of these 2 gentlemen occasionally comes and talks at Cornerstone, and their point was that the Army is putting particularly leaders in a difficult position, which is relying on training rosters and being able to accomplish everything the Army senior leaders are asking them to do. Are they just unprofessional when they don't do what they've been asked to do? Or they are unethical and unprofessional? From my point of view, they are unethical and unprofessional. Should they have taken that approach to say, hey, we cannot do it. Don't put us in a position to be not just unprofessional, but also unethical in our leadership. Should they have done that? Should that have been the course of action that as good leaders they should have taken? What happens if it's just unprofessional? We end up having to live with that. But if he's unprofessional and unethical, it affects those values that we are willing to defend. And one of the values is to be honest to our leadership, right? Do we agree? Yes. Scott, you want to add something, or we can move to the next one? Okay. Next one. Someone is aware of self-destructive behavior in a colleague and decides not to intervene, reasoning that it does not affect workplace performance. What do you think? Again, can we? Okay. Really? But can you tell us why? You don't care. None of my business.
No, no courage.
Come on.
Huh? No courage.
It wasn't me, but I'll answer the question.
Okay, go ahead. I'm saying that for a friend of mine. Go ahead.
Yeah, asking for a friend, but I can see perspective. If it's got no impact on workplace performance, then it's not my business.
Do you consider yourself a community?
Yes.
I mean, to a different degree. Are you all Marines, Army? What is the prevailing Marines, right? So are you a community? What do you owe each other? Okay, I mean, that reasoning, good, on a friend behalf, okay? Is that dangerous? How that helps the community? And the question is, if we are a community, and I have a sense that we are, I've been with you for, wow, more than 20 years, and I have a sense that I belong to this community. Do I have a responsibility to do something? Do we owe that to each other? And so why not? Why is just, for example, unprofessional? Shouldn't be solid, unethical, and unprofessional. This is really good. If you don't shave when you go to the mall and you come across a Brian Christmas, it will be, that's unprofessional. So in the fear that Brian Christmas might show up, I shave all the time if I go to the mall, right? But this is serious. It's a situation that requires our active commitment. And our active commitment should go beyond the fact that we are who we are. We are who we are, and we belong to this community. And so we owe each other. It's not going to be easy.
But is that ethics, I guess, is what I was saying. That's poor leadership if you don't do it, but is it crossed into ethics? That's where I was.
And the reason why I think it's ethical is because I have an obligation that doesn't only come from the leadership point of view, but comes from the fact that we all know each other and we are a little component of this community. And so that creates some kind of, I don't want to call it obligation because it's a big word, but it does create responsibility. And that responsibility to me is ethical. I would feel possibly professionally okay, but I'm not entirely sure I would if I failed to help someone. But I would feel destroyed ethically, morally, if I failed to help someone who is close to me. Again, I'm going to try to help anyone I can. Do I do a good job? My wife would argue probably not. But it's my ethical view. Can we agree?
Is it ethical or empathy?
Okay, is empathy part of my ethics? Is empathy part of your ethics, David? Is empathy part of the ethics? Should we be empathetic to each other?
Yes.
We should.
Especially in servant leadership, you have to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is your community just because it's a colleague?
It's not just a colleague.
So community is everything.
To me, again, I will go through the example that we used before. Community starts with my family, and then it continues with the place I work, and then is our society. I get really frustrated with fellow Americans, but what do I owe them?
Right, so based on that
Yeah,
argument,
yeah.
any self-destructive behavior by any person should be addressed.
I completely agree. Should this be addressed even more? That's the point. Should be addressed even more if it's my son. Should my intervention be more assertive if it's my son, assertive if it's Scott, assertive if it's someone I barely know, and he's a fellow member of the broad community that we call Americans?
I think the ethics piece, is it connected to a consequence from the group? So when decision makers are making decisions, they make, consequentialists make decisions based on the consequences, good or bad. Deontological decision makers make a decision based on their duty to do so, and I think that's the hang-up here, is that ethics is typically associated with a standard where there is a punishment for not doing that. And if we included morals, I think a lot of people would say that this would be immoral if we didn't say something. However, the ethical piece, my group is not going to punish me if I'm a civilian, and we don't have that group code that Marines do, Army, Air Force, etc.
I think in this specific case, I don't want us to look at punishment. I don't think there is any possible punishment. What I think is in play is maybe disappointment. Imagine that this colleague ends up doing something really bad, and then it's her husband shows up and said, what did you guys do for him or for her?
But I think that would be an individual feeling, right?
Yeah, but it's an individual feeling that I like to believe it comes from who we are and the community we belong to. And it's not necessarily, for example, I like to believe that I see the world the way I do because you said at the very beginning, I'm a Catholic. You listed a number of things that define who you are. If I am empathetic to any of you, it's because of that, but it's also because we belong together. We belong to the same community. But clearly that is my ethical background. And that's, like to believe, the reason why we owe it to each other, more than the possibility of a punishment, more than the possibility that I have a duty. If I have a duty, it's not a legal duty, it's an ethical duty. Agree? Disagree?
I feel like I disagree somewhat with the second part.
Sure.
Just
It's not that the worship parties, therefore professionally, their colleagues doing everything right.
Right.
Personally, they're engaging in self-destructive behavior, so ethically, as a colleague and member of that community, I should address them and that issue.
Yeah.
But it's not, I don't feel it's unprofessional, because at the end of the day, we're in professional arms, and the job's getting done, and it's not affecting work. Or the people that person's leading, obviously, it's not affecting work.
The issue that I have with that is the following. Is this thing doesn't affect work performance a blind spot? And that is the dangers, I think, for leaders. And I've seen in the many studies that I've done, I've seen the leader who see a successful organization, a subordinate successful organization, that is not behaving the way they're supposed to behave, being willing to condone their behavior because of that success. So do your job, I don't care. That is a blind spot, and it's potentially a dangerous blind spot. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think most of us probably think the same way, but we're getting different results because of some confusion over the again, the definition of ethics. I mentioned this before, ethics and morality are not the same thing. Ethics is acceptable practices within a community, and morality is right and wrong. So when we're talking about unethical behavior versus immoral behavior, I think a lot of people say, yeah, it's not morally correct for me to ignore someone who's involved in destructive behaviors. Right. But ethically, when you're talking about, what is acceptable behavior or legal behavior, it becomes a little more shaken or a little more completely confused. Yeah. Go ahead, please.
And just to add to that, I think it gets intertwined because within our profession, professional arms, ethics is tightly intertwined within that.
Right.
So when you say that's unprofessional, I think to me, there's an ethical piece probably assumed here.
Absolutely. Let me ask you next question, because I want to try to cover as much as possible. Someone in your workplace make excuses for a colleague's repeated misconduct or substandard performance because of personal loyalty or friendship. How do you think that behavior would be? I got this and another one. It's really good conversation. So I think we have significant agreement here. This is probably a little bit more clear-cut. Does any one of these two who believe is unprofessional but not necessarily unethical, do you want to give us your reasoning? Okay. Okay, and last one. Someone in your workplace tolerates ongoing misconduct by a high-performing colleague, reasoning that their results justify overlooking their behavior. Okay, good. Again, it was split between unethical and unprofessional. Anyone wants to say why would be unethical but not necessarily unprofessional? That's a discussion that we're having. We're heading in that direction. I don't want to waste your time, but I want to share with you just a few minutes of some of the work that I've done. And I'm going to try not to be boring. Are you familiar with the urinating incident, the 3-2 in Afghanistan? Yes. Why did that happen? Exactly for this reason. Was the battalion commander a bad commander? No. Was his command team a bad command team? No. Did they love what the Scout Sniper Platoon was doing it? They loved it. What the Scout Sniper Platoon was doing was the key to their success as a unit. They were praised by General Tulin, who was the regional commander at that time. And when they were redeploying, getting out of the country, the commandant of the Marine Corps and the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps told that battalion commander, make sure that the Scout Sniper Platoons are available for us to have breakfast with them that day, because we're going to be there. And they did. What was their behavior like? Out of control. And in fact, ultimately led to the incident. So, it was lack of discipline. First of all, I was going to say, you know how Scout Snipers operate. Yeah, so stupid thing for me to say. Scout Snipers operate in a very autonomous way. They are removed from the battalion. They operate rather independently. So they have developed their own discipline. They have developed their own subculture. They have developed, and at some point, even if the battalion knew that that was happening, they decided, are we going to punish our best earners? Are we going to stop them from, and they decided not to. Probably because they developed a blind spot. Let me tell you another story that obviously is unknown. I wrote an article on this, which I didn't want to write initially, because I was focusing on something else. But one day, I was teaching at EWS, and the director of EWS was Con O'Donovan. He's sitting on, standing on the side, and I was teaching Milai. And I walked to the corner while the students, the captains, are watching a video of Milai. And he told me, you're going to have to work on a different case study. What, Colonel? So you're going to work on the urinating incident. I said, okay, yes, sir. That's it. It was the end of the conversation. I tried to say, but this is a great case study. He said, nah, I want you to work on that case study. I didn't know that at that time it was heading the investigation on 3-2. And he saw that phenomenon, that success, becoming blinding at many levels of leadership. And he wanted me to explore that, and we did. And he was very supportive and helpful. And at the very beginning, he was very directive. When I pushed back a little bit, I said, but Milai is so good. I said, I don't give a whatever you can imagine. I want you to do the urinating incident. And we ended up doing it, which I think in retrospect was a really good one. Okay, World Cup. This has nothing to do with the World Cup, but I want us to engage on making a little decision on this thing. Marcelo Bielsa, one of the most respected coaches in the world, is currently coaching Uruguay, although he's Argentinian. Has an amazing past as a coach. Okay? A few years ago, he was the coach for Leeds United. And Leeds United was in the second division of the English system. It's called Premier Champion, called the second division. And his mission was take Leeds United to the Premier League, the first division. So he's playing a game against a direct competitor, Aston Villa. And those 3 points that they might gain are extremely important for promotion. I'm going to show you the video of that day and the decision he made when he gained what he considered to be an advantage obtained not necessarily ethically.
Both teams are keen to impose their authority from the off. The game quickly descends into a frenetic, bad-tempered affair. Leeds players and fans feel decisions are going against them. Alan Rowe is simmering.
The free kicks, if it's 50-50, it's against us all the time.
In the second half, the temperature reaches boiling point. Leeds United once again are involved in one of the most controversial and talked about incidents in world football.
But it's still 0-0. Rodgers does his best to put Cooper off, and he's coughed worse up himself. Leeds continue. There's no head wound, so they're in their rights to play on.
Leeds play on, with a Villa player down.
And here comes Click. Click moving in off the left side. Coming back in and sweeps a ball on past the keeper. And Leeds in controversial circumstances hit the front against Aston Villa. Leeds 1, Aston Villa 0. And Villa aren't happy at all. There's a real melee here inside the penalty at the Kop end.
There's confrontation everywhere. The game descends into anarchy.
But it's all going on. Villa clearly not happy that Leeds continue to play after Codger had gone down. Real controversy here at Ellen Road. And still the fights continue and Bamford is clear. Dean Smith in the other third was the policy answer. Leeds fans backing their players all the way here. And there's a red card. It's now Garcia's been shown straight red. Forced to appear to be an approach on Patrick Bamford. Villa down at 10 men. Meanwhile, Bielsa giving out more instructions to his captain Liam Cooper. Codger back on his feet. And Bielsa absolutely apoplectic here with his instructions, telling his side what they're going to have to do.
Okay. Of course, Leeds United and its supporters, it's an interesting crowd, to put it lightly. What would you do if you had been Bielsa? Well, not much. Not much. But there are probably, can't remember if it was 20 or 30 minutes left.
This is a very weird game where you kick the ball with your feet. What's normal when the captain is down? Do you stop playing?
Okay, Carl, this is the real football.
So, there are some legitimate questions. So if they tie, they both get a point, would one get promoted and one not?
No,
so who's playing for a tie?
They have more games ahead. This is one of the critical games, but there are more games. I think there were 4 or 5 more games.
So if Leeds had won, were they out of relegation with one more game?
No, promotion. They're fighting for promotion, and at any point can happen.
The problem is people were flopping all over the place. If the guy was really injured, that's one thing, but if he's just flopping and laying there, do you have an obligation to stop?
But the reason Bielsa decided to give the goal back is because when the guy was on the ground, legally, the ref didn't do anything. And so from a legal point of view, as much soccer can be legal, from regulation point of view, the goal is completely legitimate, and in fact, the referee goes ahead and assigns it. But everybody else in Aston Villa stopped.
Yes.
That's not true.
That's a courtesy to do. The player is hurt. You stop, you put the ball out of bounds to allow the medical staff to evaluate to see if it is in fact a legitimate injury.
Once again, it's why American football.
But the issue here is there is a difference between regulations and what is perceived to be ethical. And clearly, he went against the regulation, so forget about the duties. What was his duty? Win. And he decided not to, because in the end, the game ended 1-1. So 1 point each. Why? Go ahead.
Because I feel like it's what you said, his job as the coach and as the leader was to win the game. It's the referee's job to manage the rules of the game. They didn't do anything in violation of the rules as far as the referees that are paid and there to enforce the rules. Why should he give it back?
Why? It's the right thing to do. Should we do the right thing to do even when doing the right thing damages us?
But,
go ahead.
Isn't the right thing to do in a game to win? It's a competition. So the right thing to do is to keep the win.
Is that the right thing to do? When my son plays soccer or whatever it is sport he plays, I never tell him, go win. I always go tell him, remember sportsmanship. Play with honor.
That's part of it, right? But the competition.
Yes.
Right. And in competition,
You got to win.
you go out to win.
But how you going to win, isn't it critical? Go ahead.
I suspect, I'm not as familiar with the norms in soccer.
Yes.
But what we're always taught is you play full,
Yes.
whistle to whistle.
Yes.
So the game's in
Yeah.
play, you should be playing.
Yes.
The ball's in play, you should be playing.
Absolutely.
I don't know if the norms are different. But
No, they're not. This is, in fact, the first time in history that something like this happened. Never happened before. Because the real responsibility the referee has to stop the game is if there is a head injury. Then, like someone suggested, throw the ball out and let the game restart. In the meantime, they take care of the medical side. Go ahead.
How you win matters.
Say again?
How you win matters.
How you win matters. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's similar to when talked to our mates about fighting. You know, you have to fight within the Geneva Convention, you're saying.
Right.
So, again, how you fight matters. You can't be a war criminal.
Okay.
Just the results don't justify how you do it. You know, you can't break all these rules to get the results.
Absolutely. But I saw one of our leaders starting a conversation at the Surgeon Major Symposium, saying exactly this. It was a conversation on ethics. He was the director of McCITIC, and he asked the Surgeon Majors, just because we can kill them, and the reference was, we are inside rules and regulation, rule of engagement, Geneva Convention. Just because we can kill them, should we kill them? It was a beautiful discussion. Just because we can kill them, should we kill them? Just because he has the advantage of winning, should he win? And if the answer is yes, where is the sense of honor for him? I don't care. I'm going to bring the 3 points home. So I think it's taken beyond the rules and regulation. Okay, 5 minutes. Just go ahead. Yeah.
I think even then, essentially, he stepped outside of his role as the coach and leader of the team and decided to be a referee, which is not his job.
That is arguably, and we might have to agree to disagree on that. He decided to play the role of, I'm going to break the convention, which is taking advantage, and I'm going to set an example. And that example is going to determine maybe a shift in culture or maybe not. Did he think all these things? He might have, because he's crazy. In fact, in Spanish, they call him a loco. But I'm not entirely sure that he did. What I think he did, he reflected, he had time to think about it, and he knew we are under the watch of thousands and thousands of people. I am a coach, and I set the example, and I'm not going to miss that opportunity. Let me just, I'm sorry, we got to move on. Okay. Are you familiar with this? All right. So 8 people died. 8 people died. And there is a lot of investigation going on. And at some point, one thing is determined. The tampering of the Tylenol did not happen when the production took place. In simple words, Johnson & Johnson, who was led by this CEO, James Burke, had no responsibilities in the fact that Tylenol had, cyanide or something like that, and caused the death of 8 individuals. No responsibility, 0. What did he do? Why did he do that? The FBI and the FDA told him, you have absolutely no responsibility, and by you, Johnson & Johnson. You don't have to take everything off the shelf. You don't have to do it. And he said, you know what? I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to put this thing back on the shelves until they're safe. So the way we operate today with drugs and their protection comes from this. He didn't have to do it legally. He felt that he had a moral and ethical responsibility to do it, and he did it. Removed everything and told his research and development department, find a way to make sure that when we go back and we put this thing back on the shelf, it's going to be safe for customers to use. Was it worth it? What did he do? Like Bielsa, he changed the culture. What Bielsa did has been replicated until last night, but I need to watch the game. Anyway, I need to watch. I couldn't watch the second half, but I think yesterday went in a different direction. So he simply made a statement on the culture and said, even if I'm not responsible, I take ownership, I'm going to solve the problem, and I'm going to solve the problem in such a way that I'm going to change the culture. What type of leadership is this? He's a visionary. He's an individual that is able to see beyond the fact that, okay, what is my left and right? What is my meaning in this job? How can I make the greatest impact by doing the right thing? I'm going to shut up. Quanto parli? That's it.
Can you back up?
like, go to one of your previous questions?
I would like to.
Yeah, you're doing good. Keep going.
I'm gonna go.
Keep going. I'll let you know when. Wait. Go back one. That one.
Okay.
Yeah, just stay up here a minute, and I'll probably want to thank you. But a few years ago, I don't think it was somebody in this audience. It was an adjunct faculty, I think at Camp Lejeune. I could have it wrong. Anyway, they had a student that wanted to write. This guy's a great writer, and he just wants to write an article, and I know you wrote an article once, so maybe you could help him out. So we had a Zoom call, and the student's name is Rohit Dave. He's a Navy commander. He's a dentist. And he's a good writer. And so we started talking. And he's like, well, he just wanted ideas, right? He said, I'm thinking about writing an article about Pete Ellis. And I said, well, there's been, books and a lot of articles written about Pete Ellis. That's good. But what are you interested in? And again, he's a dentist. He's a medical professional. And then he kind of settled on the fact that Pete Ellis had a lot of mental health problems. And so we started talking, and I said, that'd be a good story. Basically, all the signs that were missed. Like, what if even great leaders, objectively great leaders like John Lejeune had taken a slightly different approach with Ellis. Like Ellis, he spent a lot of time in the hospital, nervous breakdowns. Everybody that was close to him knew that he had a drinking problem. That was a big, big part of it. And literally, he'd get dried out, get out of the hospital. You good? Okay, you're good. And like John Lejeune sent him back out, to the Western Pacific to continue his recon. And you all know he's an amphibious prophet. Like he, with incredible detail, predicted what would be required to defeat the Japanese in World War II. But what if somebody had been looking after Ellis, and what else might have done? And I thought about this because this is right? Like, I'm sure that, John Lejeune reasoned that, and it was a different time, let's be fair, right? Where, you just, you good? You're good. Right? And, but what if he just loved Ellis a little bit more, right? Because when I think about all this, I think what kind of cuts through it sometimes is just love. Like, if we love somebody, we'll have the hard conversation. And we all know, like, in theory, this is hard enough when answering theoretical questions. And we had a discussion before, what if we change all these questions to first person? Then it gets really hard, right? But I think what keeps great organizations together is, in a word, love, right? Paolo, thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for being a great professor, a great friend.